Hello! It is us, game developers, out in the wild. Hello everybody and welcome to the second of our Next Fest streams. Here as part of Next Fest, obviously. Second of our streams. If you missed the first one, we I did a live playthrough, but now we have something far more interesting, which is a developer Q&A with the lovely Valentina, who is... Wait, who is there? No. Who is there? That's it. I figured it out.
I'm here.
You're there. I figured it out. You see what this is why I'm not in charge of anything, gang. This is why I just come here and look like an idiot, and why people like Valentina, the smart ones, are actually in charge of anything. But hello Val, thank you very much for agreeing to come on and put yourself at the...
Hi Jay, yeah, thank you very much. It's finally to be able to talk about the game. It's quite exciting. Thanks for having me in the live stream. Oh,
that's all right. It's what we're here for. So yeah, you've been... Because I joined Villainous, I joined just before we turned evil, which I'm trying to say has got nothing to do with the fact that I joined, but I joined Villainous back in March. But you've been obviously part of the team here for a long time now, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been actually here for about 3 years as a lead designer and creative lead at the studio. We've worked on another game beforehand, an interactive short story called Please Comply, and now we're working on Harvest Hunt. And
how long can you say has Harvest Hunt been? Let's go with how long has Harvest Hunt been an idea in the brain out there versus how long have you actually been getting to play and build the thing?
Well, we've been working on the game actually for a bit less than a year and a half, and we were kind of cooking the idea the few months beforehand. Basically, it was sort of a fresh idea. We wanted to make a game that had more mechanics. It's still a small game, but indie development team, but something that had more interactivity with a bit more depth and things that the player can like tinker with. And something you'll see in Harvest Hunt soon enough, and we can talk about that.
So are you, I assume you would call yourself a horror aficionado or a horror fan, or is it
Yeah, absolutely. I love horror. At this point, I think I'm completely desensitive to what's the word? That word, to horror. I can play all sorts of horror games and I'll be like, yeah, this is fun. I love it. Please, this is my safe space.
See,
this is how I work.
I thought I was that, and now I'm trying to figure out if I am or not, because I play a lot of horror games as well. Like I'm horror mad, and I've played a few, and I have started to notice that I don't get scared anymore, which is both nice and awful in the same way, because I'm like, please something come along and scare me. And I have to say, when I first joined the team and dove into Harvest Hunt, which I'm going to bring up on screen for you all now. There it is. My first moments creeping around the cornfield and waiting to see what this thing was that was coming for me. I didn't like it. I'll be honest, I felt uncomfortable and I didn't like it, and I wanted to leave the cornfields and run away and hide. Yeah, so thank you.
That sounds great, but also terrible at the same time.
But also exactly what you are after, exactly. I've no doubt, yeah. Yes. So I'm going to attempt to play the game today. And for those who maybe caught the first stream, I'm not great because I just want to grab weapons and charge straight at the Devourer. But there are many ways to play this game, aren't there? Which I think is really cool in terms of what approach every player can take.
Exactly, yeah. You
don't have to be as idiotic as me, basically. All right, I'm going to start us up. And obviously, for those of you in chat who might be watching, if you want to ask any questions of Val, then please do shout. If you've got any questions about the game, or even branching out into what it's like being a developer, feel free to chat and shout at us. So if you haven't seen Horror Stories Harvest Hunt before, this is the second in our Horror Stories anthology from Villainous Game Studio. And Val can slap me now because I always try and get this right, and I always end up getting it wrong just because this game has so many interesting components. But I always like to describe it as a roguelite stealth survival horror game with card deck elements. I think
Yeah, it sounds about right, honestly. Yeah, we can be shorter. It can be a survival horror game that has roguelite elements, card deck elements, etc. We can add that as elements to the side. Yeah.
See, there you go. So if you're into stealthy horror games, basically, gang, this one is for you. And I think the roguelite elements, we've been talking about this as sort of more of the public have been seeing the game, but those roguelite elements is not something you see a lot in horror. And in fact, I can't really think off the top of my head of many games I've seen that have ever done horror mixed with roguelite in quite the way that Harvest Hunt does. So I like that because it means I can die in more and more inventive ways every single time. But gang, so here you are. This is the beginning of our demo. And the premise of Harvest Hunt is relatively simple. There is the village of Lunanova that 32 people have escaped. They've escaped from something and have found themselves in Lunanova, which is the village where they live. And they must harvest ambrosia to survive. So ambrosia is your most precious resource in this game. However, for reasons that we will not reveal, because we are mysterious game developers and must maintain mystery, there is a creature that essentially is stalking the village of Lunanova, ruining your ambrosia and causing trouble. So each night, a warden gets selected, which is the role you're going to take on as a player character, and your job is essentially to go out into the field each night of the harvest season and protect the ambrosia, protect the harvest, try not to get completely, eviscerated by the devourer. But then also, as you'll see the game progress, it's a beautiful game of cat and mouse. And I want to ask Val, actually, if this was always the idea, it's a game of cat and mouse, but also where at some point you can no longer afford to just be the mouse, and you have to flip those tables and go after the thing that you've been trying to hide from the whole time, which I really like.
Yeah, exactly. It's I think it's one of the core pillars that we had was it's a game where you are trying to hide and sneak and be careful not to encounter this monster because it's really powerful. Basically, in about 2 hits, you can get killed, but at the same time you have to fight back. There are instances where you don't have to do that because the core of the game is making sure that you survive the season. So, and for that one you need ambrosia. So if you can get it in different ways through some abilities from some different challenges that we have, or by literally just harvesting around the farmlands, which is a map in our game, you can do that. But as the game progresses, banishing the devourer, our monster, will gain you a lot more ambrosia, and that is kind of like the risk reward is you can play it safe and get more ambrosia, but at the same time you might also die, and you will lose a lot more. So we kind of have this balance in there.
And I think as we'll see as we play through the demo going, there are extra incentives, shall we say, for going after the devourer in terms of ambrosia, in terms of things you may unlock as you do that, and sometimes it will just straight up be a requirement of the night that you really need to be going after this thing. And I love that because it's sorry you have to go and face the thing that you've been hiding from, which I think is a really nice angle. And yeah, as Val is saying, as you can see here, this is our first night of the demo, and I will say that I wouldn't have done it because I'm horrible, but the team have been nice, and it's a little easier on you for the demo, isn't it? Like you can take a little bit more punishment from the devourer in the demo before it's game over. But essentially, you will have this season in front of you of 5 nights, and we have 5 seasons of 5 nights. He wants to say, yeah. So each season, which you can see here, you're looking to get this amount of ambrosia to last through the season or to survive through the season. And you have 5 nights in order to gather it and do it and try and keep away from the devourer. So this first night, for example, if we look under here, I won't talk exactly what these are yet because we're going to see them as we go through, but you can see underneath each of these nights it tells you what you're going to be able to unlock as you go through. So shall we just go in? Should we go into the terrifying village?
Let's dive in.
Where the awful monster is going to destroy us all. It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
And just like Jay said, the demo is, and actually some nights in the first season are easier than the rest of the game. It's for onboarding reasons, to help you get into it and understand how it plays. So yeah, you can get hit a little bit more by the monster now. It's more forgiving, but afterwards...
I just got scared by a tooltip, everybody. It's fine. Don't worry about it. One of the questions I have when I first saw this game is it's gorgeous. And I said it on the first stream, Uriel, who's our art lead, has done an amazing job. But I don't know if you know, was there a specific kind of inspiration around the art style or the choice to go for this versus, say, like a photorealistic art style that we like to see a lot of?
100%. Yeah. I just cannot find the appropriate art words for that. I think Uriel would be best to ask. But yeah, we definitely had a specific inspiration of what we wanted to do, and we had some art tests initially to see what things would look like. And it also helps not going with a photorealistic style, because we're a small team and wanna keep things quote unquote simple, but at the same time having a unique art style makes us stand out a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, you talk there about as a small team, you know, you have to make, it's there. I can do this. I can interview and be scared at the same time. You know, you have to make choices that are reflective of the fact that you are working in a small team. So how big, I mean, I know roughly how big Villainous is, but for a long time it's only been 3 of you, 3, 4 maybe?
So now we're a core team of 6, and we obviously work with external freelancers and whatnot, but the development team is consisting of me, which handles the design, an artist and a programmer. So those are the 3 hands-on people on the game itself. We're quite a small dev team on that aspect. So yeah, it has to always consider what we're capable in completing in a small time scale.
And I think, you know, as someone who's come to the studio late in terms of the development cycle, I was impressed with what's managed to be done with such a small team. You know, the quality of this game is really impressive given
it's really impressive, and I'm really proud of everybody who worked on and touched the game in any way. It's really, really good.
Okay, so if you've been watching, gang, here is the ambrosia that we're trying to harvest. This is one of my favorite areas of the map because it's all blue and mellow, which I quite like.
These are the granaries that we have. It's where the villagers stored their, you know, resources and their food and whatnot.
Precious ambrosia. So at the same time, at the moment, the Devourer is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the Devourer, the creature, is also going around the village at this moment in time, isn't it? Eating and destroying the ambrosia.
Yeah, exactly. You will find, I don't know if we'll be able to see it now on the first night, where you will find destroyed, kind of contaminated ambrosia that's a bit greenish, and that's the one you can't harvest anymore because the Devourer went and contaminated it.
Thanks, Devourer. So I love, it's just the entire art style, even down to the basic UI I love. But so we've collected enough ambrosia, basically, everybody, for the first night. So this is the demo is essentially the first 3 nights, guiding you through it in a very much a tutorial fashion, so you can kind of see how the mechanics working together. But we've collected enough ambrosia now, so we could escape. And I think this is part of the game that leads you into that cat and mouse part of, well, you could go, well, I've got enough ambrosia, I'll leave, or you could decide to stay and try and harvest more before you might get caught out.
Yeah, the first season is a little bit more, the first 2-3 nights, which are parts of the demo, are a bit more tutorialized, just to help get the player up the basics. And then afterwards it becomes a lot more open, and I don't mean environment and level wise, I mean the abilities and the things that you're able to do and how you want to play.
So that's always something I've liked about this, is you mentioned there the different ways to play, and I think we'll see as the nights go on, but there are a lot of different styles to how you want to play this game, isn't there? And I think was that something you wanted to support when you started out, in terms of letting the players decide how idiotic they were going to be, in my case?
Yeah, I think that was one of the first core design pillars, were to have different mechanics, different abilities, different ways to approach the situation. And as this is one of the goals of the game, was to make keep it small in scope, but make it replayable. So if people love streaming horror games, at one point they get bored because it's a 15-minute video game. Well, now we made a bigger video game. You can play and be rewarded as the more you repeat the game and the more you play, because there's progression actually in it. So we want to be able to have a game that has replayability, but at the same time progression, where in linear progression, which you unlock different abilities and different tools. So if you enjoy the core game of the loop, you can keep coming back at it and play it in different ways.
And that's one of the questions that's come up from some people playing the demo is, as that progression goes on, how hard does it get to sort of try and keep surviving these seasons? And from memory, it ramps up quite well, doesn't it, across the 5 seasons, that by the final season,
it ramps up. We'll have different ways of ramping up the challenges. We'll have different, what we call whispers. So I guess we'll see it in the next night. I don't want to get into them right now. We'll have different monster mutations that apply each season. And we also, but at the same time, we don't want to feel make the player feel overwhelmed all the time. We want to give you the ability to choose different player abilities and feel more powerful as you progress.
Yeah. Some of which we're going to see now. I would love to say I'd planned that segue and that we'd scripted you talking about player abilities, and then I could just go, look, here they are. But I'm not that smart. We didn't do that. But we have completed the first night. And this comes on to what we've just been talking about unlocking these extra rewards and abilities that differs each night depending on what you do, and you'll get certain tasks to complete in order to unlock things. But at the end of this night now, we've completed the nights. Provides rewards as shown below each moon phase. This is what we were looking at before. Some of these rewards will always be received, while others will require you to successfully banish the Devourer, which we're going to start seeing over the next couple of nights. And certain actions, such as banishing the Devourer, will give you Ambrosia itself. So you can, as you can see here, I lost 10 Ambrosia. Boo, because I didn't banish the Devourer. And I always like to think of that as like, that's how much I've lost because I just left the Devourer like roaming in the field, eating all of our delicious food. So you will be penalized for not banishing the Devourer, and then you will get a, I guess, I don't want to call it a buff, but I guess a resource bonus if you do banish them. And then you must have enough of this vital resource at the end of each harvest season in order to complete it. So that was the number that was up there, but we'll see that. Oh, there it is. There it is, J in giant font and symbols. So there we go. We've got 29 out of our 50 Ambrosia for this season. And now, one of my favorite bits of art and gameplay mechanics in this game is the card deck system. I don't know if you want to talk about that for a little bit while I kind of look at them, because I could wax lyrical about these cards all day, basically.
So yes, of course, we have different sorts of I want to say abilities in the way we represent that kind of stuff in the game, and it is through cards. So cards can be related to player abilities, which we call warden strengths. They can be related to kind of gameplay abilities, which we call village fortifications. And then we have cards that are your tools, your different weapons that you can play with in the game. So the warden strengths are related to the player itself, for example, being able to make less noise or run faster, that kind of stuff. The village fortifications are cards that will usually have a bigger gameplay impact. For example, the villagers have worked together and created these hideout stations around the map that are now present, and you can hide in there. The Devourer will lose you completely in there, but it will also restore your health. Or it can be something as powerful as every time you go and heal yourself, your maximum amount of health is increased. So the more you get damaged, you can go and heal yourself, but the maximum is increased, and that is useful for something that we'll see in another screen in the tool on our tool selection screen afterwards. So the more health you have, obviously you can survive longer, but you can also acquire tools. I guess I'll talk about that later. So yeah, we have a lot of different types of cards, and they're related to different things, and I can jump into the roguelite aspect of those cards, but maybe we can leave it on another screen. We can jump into that later as well.
Yeah, I'm not, because I don't think I've seen that card yet. Well, me being an idiot, I've never probably gone for one that's health focused.
We have a lot of cards, so it's easy also to forget like which ones are which and how that works. It's totally fine.
I have a question after we've seen a few more cards. I have a question for you later about cards and personal preference. So have a think about when you play, which ones you hate and which ones you like.
Right. Okay.
So we've unlocked one here as an example. So this is one of the tools cards that, for example, that Val was just talking about, and you get a little pitchfork icon up here. So this is a vigor elixir. So this will restore our vigor. So in case you're wondering, vigor is our health kind of name for this game. So this will restore our vigor slowly over the course of 3 minutes. So it's not like an immediate health buff like some of the vigor bowls that will show you out in the game, but it's a slow healing potion basically.
Yeah, and just to intercept here, this is one of the first things to unlock to make your playthrough a little bit easier if you're concerned with health. But the way the vigor works in our game and in a lot of survival horror games is that it's manual. You have to go and interact with an item to restore your health. There is no automatic regeneration. So this is a tool that you can acquire before you enter the farmlands, and that if you use, it will restore it automatically for up to 3 minutes in case you're having trouble, either finding rations, which are kind of like a medicine in the game, or if you're just having a hard time with the devourer.
Yeah, I should take that in future. I'm not good. Okay, so that sets us up for our second night. We'll have a quick look at the second night, but then I want to show you our compendium as well, because I really appreciate the existence of a compendium for this. So here we are on the second night, and as we see now we can look a little bit more at these. Now we understand them, but here we are. We will banish the devourer. If we banish the devourer tonight, we will unlock a strength fortificational tool. So essentially we will unlock another kind of card. If we do this one, we will banish the devourer. We will gain a village fortification, and then the last one, we will unlock the village fortifications lore entry in the compendium. So this is something I like as well, and I wonder if this was not intentional, but it was always part of the design, in that one of the ways we encourage the player to go after the devourer is there will be some lore essentially locked behind how much you go up against the devourer, how much you fight it, how many times it might get banished, or you can just leave, but you might lose out on learning some of the story, which is another way that we encourage them to go after the banishments. Was that always sort of planned in and part of what you wanted to do to encourage?
I guess not from the beginning, but it was something like halfway through development we decided to, as you can see, the little icons there have like a dotted line. That means it's conditional. That means you have to banish the devourer in order to get those items. If you escape or if you fail, that means you won't get those items there. And then the other icons that are not dotted are the ones that you will get regardless of whether you fail, escape, or banish the devourer. And that's kind of important to us because there's for example, if you fail, you might not be able to gain a new card that you can add to your current hand to play with, and that can set you back for the next night. So therefore, you might be thinking, okay, I need some help. I'm gonna try and banish the devourer this time. Hopefully, unlock a cool new card that I can equip into my current hand.
Yeah, and I will say, by the way, if you're watching this thinking, oh yeah, this looks cool, I'm gonna dive into this. Really want to be unlocking those cards. Like, the later you go on and on and on throughout the seasons, and obviously, both Val and I have played this to its current state of completion, those later seasons, some of the cards, you're just like, oh, okay, I'm glad that one was in there. I'm glad I picked that one up. So while it's easy to go, oh yeah, I'll just leave, it's fine, I've got my Ambrosia, you kind of need to think about what you're going to be left with when the game really ramps up, because it starts to get challenging. pretty quickly.
Maybe we can spoil some of our whispers and which are conditions later on. But during the demo in the first season, it's everything, like I said, a bit more tutorialized. So it's trying to not throw difficult things at you immediately. But once you get into the second season, it's a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
You better be prepared.
And this up here now we can see we're being highlighted towards the compendium, which, as somebody who is terrible for this, I really appreciate the existence of the compendium, but I'll go into it so you can see what it is. So this is essentially your big book of lore. That's what I'm going to start with. The bumper book of lore, because I just like I like alliteration. I don't care. The bumper book of lore, where all the lore that you've uncovered will be in the compendium. So if you're like me and you're just like, you just blast through and don't read anything, and then you're like, well, I wonder what's going on, but I've missed the opportunity to read it. You've always got this compendium, which will not only give you the lie of the land as well, which I'll show you, but also explain the lore of what's going on. So here we've got the lore. Villagers need a warden to protect them, and each harvest season a new warden is chosen from the villagers, and this is where you can learn more about them. Here you can see a quick little look at what this warden's particular strength is. So for example, Antonia has her rations recover twice as much vigor. So rations, as Val was saying, is our sort of health packs, for want of a better term, out in the world. So picking up rations will heal you, but she gets double. I'll come on to the Devour mutations in a minute. The character lore, but by successfully completing each harvest season as that character, you will unlock more lore about that character. And then also generic game lore about the environment, the tools, the other things that you might come across. But this is the bit that I like, that there's sort of goals attached to bits of lore, which I like. So constantly that encouragement of the player to go, it's not just simple, go and get ambrosia. They can come into the compendium and check here about how they can learn more and what they can do, which I really like as well.
Yeah, same with some other of our entries. If you, for example, go visit a specific landmark, you might unlock some lore about that. Or if you do a next different thing, you'll unlock lore about that one as well, and you can read it all here. That's an extra way for people who are interested in stories and narratives, and we'll have like a depth. We'll have a lot of depth in the narrative here. If you're interested in looking, playing the game and at the same time reading the stuff. I know there's a lot of people who might just enjoy the gameplay, but I know there's also people who like to find out secrets and how did all this come together, and maybe be left with more mysteries at the end of it. So that's what this is, who it's for.
And I like that, because I'm usually one who goes like 90% of the way through, just blasting through the game. And you, like you said, you can play all the way through Harvest Hunt and not learn anything. If you want, you can just kind of do all 25 nights and be like, hey, I did it. I beat the game. But if you're like me, you get 90% of the way through and you're like, actually, I'd quite like to know what's going on. And then you're left with 300 logs to read. But things like here, like where you've got ambrosia, it's like, well, you need to collect 50 to learn more. And it's like, well, maybe I'll stay in the village a little longer tonight and get even more ambrosia, because I want to unlock this and find out more about that. So that's something I personally like. And now we'll show them the whispers. I don't know if you want to talk about the whispers and the idea behind them, so you can see
yeah, for sure,
how these come into play.
Yeah, so the whispers was one of the core, they're part of the core loop of the game, and what also makes it unique. So before each night, you have to look at these whispers that are provided to you, and these are like different challenges that will happen at that night. And we have a positive sort of challenge, what we call blessing, is the green card that you see. We've got the negative effect that will be applied, which is the red card, and then we've got the card that's on the right, the kind of like cyclic green one, which is the monster evolution. That one remains for the whole season and only changes per season. So a monster will have a specific, let's call it, ability, and you have the whole night to play with that ability and explore it and counter it. Whereas the other ones are the other two cards will change every night. For now, for the demo, they're kind of restricted. So like I said, to kind of introduce you to things. So for example, now the Devour's attacks are dealing only half damage, makes things a bit easier. And we also the negative effect, which is called the calamity, is right now is that in the water you might find something called the water fin, these crazy natural spikes in there, and if you step into them you will get hurt, and they will also alert the devourer towards your location, so you better not stick around for too long.
And I think this is the bit that I really like, and I think I would implore you gang to go and try this for yourselves in the demo. But what I think Harvest Hunt does great is just when the player gets settled, they're like, oh, okay, I've got a strategy, great, and I know where I'm going to put my tools here. Okay, then I'll run there, and then I'll use that tool. Great, I've done it. And then these whispers turn up, and you're like, oh, okay, I can't do that anymore. I need to come up with a new strategy and a new tactic. Even if you're still like, I'm still just going to go really, aggressive, you can still do it, but now you might have to do it slightly differently because of the way these cards come out to play, which is something I really like. Yeah.
This is what this is what adds the variety into the game, and this is part of the roguelite experience a little bit, having different challenges, and these are quite specific and can be quite heavy as well. So we have one, I won't spoil it, but this one that affects the environment quite a lot, and you might not be able to traverse as you thought before. Maybe you'll have to choose different tools.
I know which one you're talking about it, and that's the one I hate the most. I'm not going to tell you what it is, chat, but I know the card Val's talking about, and I hate that one so much.
Yeah,
such a genius card.
And these cards all play differently together. You might have, for example, the monster card now. It says that it leaves a toxic gas behind it, right? But maybe you'll get a card or a tool that counters that, or maybe you'll get a negative card that increases that way more in some way that you do not like. Yeah. Which is what we want to keep players on their toes. It's all gameplay driven, and the things that the map also adjusts a little bit regardless of these cards. So we have like an internalized kind of like system which will always put rations in different places, which will always put, for example, the water fiend that we will encounter now can be in different places. So you cannot learn where they spawn. Otherwise, that will defeat the whole purpose of this kind of like spontaneity and uncertainty, right? So a lot of things will move around the map, and items, and even the tools that you acquire, they will be around specific areas, but maybe not in the specific exact positions.
You see, I was smiling then because I thought I was going mad when I would be terrified running through the cornfield to a place, and I was like, I was sure there were vigor rations here. Where have they gone? Now I know that I've been played by the developers.
Yes.
Yes, but also, exactly. Hello chat. I had a little issue with chat, but it's up now, so I can see the comments. Hello Edgar. Hello Ground Control. Uriel, our art lead, is in chat. Hello Uriel. We were talking about how great your art is earlier on. It's wonderful. I do have a question actually before we go on to the next bit, just from Edgar, which I think is interesting. Which is, what would you say are the particular design challenges when you're looking specifically at a horror game versus any other genre, I guess?
I think because we're also going with survival horror, and that has specific features that people expect from it, like resource management or a limited inventory, even things like manual healing, and just the overarching idea of being vulnerable or having this sort of uncertainty, right? Those are kind of some of the features of survival horror. Those are really hard to get right because there's a balance between like, now I'm feeling too powerful, or now it's too punishing, or now it's too randomized. And I think one of the difficulties is, is this balanced correctly? And I'm not sure there's always a one answer for that, because the game, our game, is so different than other games. It's something that you just play and try and balance as much as you can, and that's probably the most difficult thing for me as a designer. It's not creating the different content and implementing it, and it's not like coming up with a new tool. It's about, okay, if we bring one more tool now into the game, how does it like the chain effect that it will have on the abilities, on these whispers that we've seen on the other tools, how does it just unbalance everything else?
It's like that moment in any horror game where you've been vulnerable and up against it for so long, and then you finally get a gun and you're like, that's it, I'm super powerful now, and you're like, no, there are 2 bullets, and that's it. So it's like you say, that constant balance is really interesting. Thank you for that question, Edgar. I love game design, just the principles of trying to make things work. It's really interesting. So now we're onto our tool screen. So here is where you get to essentially manage what tools you might end up with out in the cornfield. So we're going to need tools in order to damage the devourer, and that's going to be part of the banishment ritual that we're going to see in the following nights. But essentially, you can see here, this is now a top-down map. Again, the art style I just adore. This is essentially a top-down map of the village that we've just been in, with some of the major landmarks. Those being mainly the tree, the windmill, and our church here. And we're going to get to pick where we deploy our tools for the next night's hunt. So not permanently, just each night you will come in here and do this. So it allows you to kind of keep your tactics fresh. I used to like the tree a lot, but I've started to really enjoy the windmill now. So if we go to the windmill, we can have a look here. So here's the other bit that I think is just so evil, and I think is where we earned the name Villainous Games. So I don't know if you want to talk a bit about this aspect of the gameplay around vigor and tools.
So we wanted to do one of the aspects of our whole inventory management just a little bit more unique and a little bit more different. So that's why the tools that you find is not something that you can just find in the map. You pick it up and it gets added into your inventory and you can rearrange it or whatever. You have to do it before you even start the night. So you're able to choose which location you want to have which tools, and different locations will have different tools. So you have to think which one you can use, or maybe, hey, if I want to use this one, then I'll have to go to the location. But that location will have something bad happening that night because the whispers told me so. So there's always this kind of like, it's a game that requires strategy basically. And apart from that, one of the extra villainous thing, like you said, is how you acquire these tools. So in other games you might purchase them with like coins, or maybe you'd even think, oh yeah, I'm collecting some resources and my ambrosia, maybe I exchange them for that. But in this one we decided to go a little bit more evil and go, okay, you give up some of your health to acquire tools. So you can see the health bar down there, it says 100 out of 100 now, that's kind of your max. And each tool has different cost, like health cost, vigor as we call it, and you can only get also a specific amount of tools. For example, the monster vein, you can only get 1 in that location, or the hatchet, you can only get 2, so that it limits you as well on how many you can get. And as you get the tools that you think you need, the health starts to go down. So you start your night with the amount of health that is left over basically, and you sort of need to balance that and be a bit careful. We really want to like people to think what they do. One of the things you'll notice now though, just in this instance, you can see a little blood drop under the cards. It all says 0, but it's because in the beginning of the game we sort of let you play around a little bit with the tools that are available, that are unlocked, and it's going to be free. The first one's on us, guys, basically. That's the kind of vibe, and you can choose all of them and you can play around and totally not know what each one does. And then the third night, that's when you start paying with your blood.
I don't think I've ever heard you sound so threatening as that final phrase. On the third night you begin paying with your blood.
I'm sorry, it's true.
I want that attitude in the next stand-up. Just yes, now it's time. Thanks Val. That's the terrifying explanation of the vigor and tool system. I'm gonna take all my favorites, which is I like to take the monster veins. And it tells you here, but I'll just say basically the monster vein is something you're gonna place in the world and it points to where the monster is. So if you take 3 of these, like I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna grab 1 monster vein at each of the 3 locations. So if I now go to each of those locations one at a time, I will get a monster vein at each one, and you can put 3 down, and now you can triangulate the monster's location. Because I'm going to go vaguely... No, I'm not going to go stealthy. I'm going to go stealthy-ish. So I'm going to put a couple of hatchets at the windmill as well. And then I think it's at the tree. There's these
Yeah,
blood flasks.
We can grab everything if you want.
I'm going to put everything everywhere. I think that's it.
It's free.
There.
So it's
That's
good.
true. I might as well. I do like the blood flask. So the blood flask is essentially like it's kind of like a grenade, but you have to load it up with the Devourer's blood by being close enough to it until you manage to fill up this flask, which again I like is that continuation of the idea of, okay, here's a thing you can throw at it to damage it, but you're gonna have to follow it around the map, staying close enough. That constant, yeah, that constant cat and mouse I really like. And again, obviously here, gang, you can see we show you how many more nights you have to get through in order to unlock these cards. So now we're back at the map. We can see here are the 3 locations. Here are the cards. We know our whispers. Here are the tools that we've laid there. We know what the whispers are. We know what we're up against. Night 2. Let's go. Only one more night before I have to start paying Val with my blood, everyone.
Yeah, I think the third one is gonna be interesting once we get past the easy bits.
Wait, this is easy? Okay. Oh, it's right there. Why is it right there already in front of me? Okay. Let's go. I'm going to go to the windmill first. Okay, so as it's saying here, tools can be found in the landmarks that we've just put down, but also if you, for some reason, either forget to choose any tools or you've decided, actually, I'm don't want to sacrifice any of my health, we've always left just the worst possible rubbish pitchfork lying around in the farmland, so you will always be able to damage the Devourer and banish it, even if you don't select any tools. But it's significantly harder with the pitchfork. I mean,
just to add something here design-wise. Sorry, the pitchfork was another tool we had to design as a way to kind of tackle some other issues when it comes for questions like, okay, what if the player doesn't want to pick up any tools? Then if the main objective is to banish the Devourer, then how will they do that? And to just give players more freedom, we've created this tool kind of to counter it. Say if you forgot to add tools or whatever, you can always use the pitchfork. Or we've expanded the game later on. Initially, you weren't able to escape through the entry points like we did in the first run. Now you can do that as well. So you can play in different ways. You cannot get any tools. You can just start escaping, or you can banish the Devourer with specific ones.
I've just panicked while you were explaining that about the tool because I did 2 things. I thought I'll show chat what the Water Fiend looks like and what it does, but I accidentally triggered it, got damaged, and now I'm in trouble. So the Devourer has sensed me, chat, because I hit the Water Fiend, which is the little tentacles coming out of the water, which means the Devourer is now going to be running towards our location. So I'm going to run away and hide in here. So that was what I accidentally walked into. That's the tentacles. I don't know, and this is you can either answer this, Val, or say no comment. I don't know if those tentacles are part of the monster or just another irritating creature that lives in this wonderful village. I like to think of it. Oh no, I did it again! Oh! Run away.
I'll let you finish panicking.
Oh no! I like to close my eyes because that means I'm safe. I'm going to go back a different way. I've decided, actually, this is the right way. Ooh. Okay, I'll go this way now. See, it's a little thing like that. Like the Water Fiend is so nicely positioned there as far as the Devourer is concerned that it makes it awkward for me to choose that as the path. So we'll go a little bit more direct.
So when it comes to your question, what I tend to like to do is ask you, what do you think?
Oh, I like to think of them as part of the Devourer. Like that's just somehow it's got these ethereal tentacles down through the ground, popping up all around the map to cause trouble for me. That's what I like to think.
Okay, I will not answer that. I just like to know what you think. Yeah.
Just like to know how wrong I am. What I was going to say though was I'm looking forward already to somebody doing, and you know somebody will do it, is a pitchfork only run where they do all 25, try to do all 25 of the nights with just a pitchfork. In fact, here it is. That is the pitchfork. And if I grab it, you can now see that.
One of the the way we called the pitchfork internally, the way I described it always was like, it's like when you play a first-person shooter and you have a pistol, which is the most boring, the most weak gun out of all of them. Shotgun is much better, right? Assault rifle is much better. Your pistol might have even infinite bullets just to keep you, just so you have a gun. It's your backup gun, and that's what the pitchfork is. It's the backup tool in case you want to use it, because the pitchfork requires 3 hits before the devourer can even drop one of its fragments, whereas other tools will be just 1 hit.
So you
have to get close to it as well.
I'm gonna reference a meme now, because despite being nearly 40, I'm absolutely down with the kids. And just remember, chat, switching to your pitchfork is always faster than reloading. Yeah.
Not in this game.
Not in this game. Yeah. So a couple of things while we've been chatting is this Warden vision, which is essentially, you can imagine you've got the Warden's mask on. So going into Warden vision allows you to more easily see. You can just sort of see them there, the highlighted tools. So if you're ever sort of out in the cornfields and you can't quite see where you've placed your tools, the Warden vision will help. But also it will show you what cards you've got active. I can kind of point the bottom of the screen there, the current whispers in play, and then on the left at the top left is where a list of where all your tools are if you've forgotten what you've placed. And this is the monster vein, so that's what one of our placeable tools. So you grab those, you press space to ready them, and then left click to actually put them down into the world. So that now we've only got 1 point. We just kind of know he's generally somewhere that direction. Still don't know enough that we won't get eaten alive. So now I'm going to grab a tool.
So the interesting thing also with the monster vein is not just that it points at the monster and you can triangle the position if you use 3, but it also has a little bell in it, so you can lure the devourer to the monster vein, and maybe you have another tool ready and you're hiding in the cornfield, so maybe you just want to sit there and just throw it right at it once the monster gets close.
I mean, I'm going to take tips from the developer, gang. I'm going to try that tactic. All right, let's ring a bell and then run into the cornfield. Okay, bye! And there it is. So there you go. You can see my flask is now filling up, but it means I've got to try and stay close enough. I'm too far away or not already. I love, by the way, the sort of vision effect. When the monster is close, this sort of like aberration at the top of the monitors.
Yeah. It was really important for us for the player to have a visual and also an audio effect. Like, so when you're close enough to the monster, your screen distorts. You get some different effects, even though you might know exactly where it is. You know it's around you, or you can hear it, or you can see it. And it was a very big pillar. Having audio cues for a lot of interesting items in our game, so you could hear their location, where the ambrosia is, or where the rations are, for example.
I was just busy trying not to scream at that point. And yeah, as you were saying earlier, this is now our contaminated ambrosia, because the devourer has come along and soiled our precious ambrosia.
And hiding in the cornfields, as everybody can see, is like a big tactic of the game. We made it so, like, obviously the AI cannot see you easily if you're crouched or if you're standing in the cornfields. But if you're outside of that, it will be able to spot you quite easily. So you can use them as cover, but at the same time, we wanted to keep it a little bit. Everything has a risk reward. So if you go in the cornfields, you will walk much slower and you will run much slower as well. So if you're trying to escape the monster and trying to run through the cornfields, it's gonna maybe catch up to you, or interesting stuff like that, basically.
I will say that, like,
everything to have an impact.
The game does a great job of, which I think is one of the key things in any I don't know how you would describe it, any horror game based on tension as opposed to sort of gore horror games that might be more combat focused, is this feeling of you're never quite safe. So like even hiding in the cornfield, perfectly crouched and hidden, you're hidden but not invisible all of a sudden. You know, there's
that tension is basically one of the main pillar in the game. Like, we wanted to bring tension not through gore effects, not through spooky moments, but through gameplay itself. So your health is not gonna be lasting that long. Your tools break easily, or maybe they need a lot of health to be acquired. A lot of the whispers and the abilities can be a bit more challenging.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're trying to create tension through gameplay.
And doing it very well, if I may say so. Like, genuinely, every time I play this, even though I know what's going to happen, and I've seen the Devourer up close and personal many, many times, I still find myself tensing. It's like I don't know if it's an old school gaming thing, but you're like,
safe.
I'm sure if I press this B button hard enough, my character will jump further. You're just permanently in that sort of state of like, please don't find me. No. It's really good at, like, when it's wandering around, it gets me. It still gets me. But we did manage to do it. If you watched while Val was explaining about that, gang, I threw the filled blood flask, so we've now damaged the Devourer, and we can see a nice chunk of its flesh. Oh! Run! Okay, I think it got distracted by its own flesh. So I chose basically there to run straight down a path for speed, and now I will dip off into the cornfield. I was going to turn the volume up because I think the audio landscape of this game is really, really beautiful as well. Such a good job of setting the tone.
And we tried, like I said earlier, we tried to put a lot of audio into a lot of gameplay elements that usually you wouldn't even find in other games. For example, the vigor, the rations themselves that give you health make a subtle audio sound. So if you're hiding in the cornfields and you're like, okay, I'm low on health, but there's a faint sound I can hear and I can recognize it, that's rations. I can go and, consume them and it will gain my health back.
And I like as well that now that we've damage the Devourer in this area, there's like a sort of a search that's happening now. That means he's not just wandered off on its sort of normal, everything's fine kind of day. It's like, well, I'm going to stick around and see what just happened to me. So if you are sort of forced away in that chase that just happened, you've now got to try and make your way back to this piece of flesh.
Exactly, yeah. We'll have the master can investigate various positions and locations, and if there's a disturbance, for example, if you make too much noise somewhere.
So now we've got our piece of the fragment, which means we need to get it to our wonderful effigy, which is one of my favorite spots in the map, mainly because it's close to the plague pit, which is my #1 favorite spot in the map. Which I think I'm the only one who calls it a plague pit, but I dig it.
It's a pit, yeah. It's so.
In fact, there we go. That's a beautiful. I haven't seen this. I've seen a lot of shots and views in this game chat, but I quite like this one, sort of down through the open water to the effigy. So the effigy, and again, I'm kind of interested in the design choice there of adding these lanterns so that wherever you are in the map, more or less, if you can get a bit of a view of the night sky, you can see these tall lanterns as like this guiding light towards the effigy.
So the idea behind that also comes from trying to find a solution to how do you help the player navigate around an environment that has very tall grass, which is the corn. And you can put a lot of UI markers and things, but we do like our games to be diegetic. And so one of the pillars then was to make things stand out that are important, like the landmarks, the windmill, the church. The tree can be seen all from far away if you just look up a little bit. Same with the lanterns. There's 3 lanterns because you require 3 pieces of the Devourer, and the moment you add the piece there, you'll notice that one of the fires will get extinguished, and then you'll be able to count basically how many you have put there, instead of having a counter somewhere in the UI. Is like, oh yeah, now I've used up 2 out of the 3 that I need. You can quickly look up at the sky, look at the lanterns, and be like, okay, there's 1 more smoke left, I need 1 more. So everything is trying to be diegetic, and this is the kind of I think rewarding experience that players who care about that kind of stuff, and being lost in the environment and getting immersed in the atmosphere will like actually enjoy. This is not an action. This is not a shooter game. It's stealth. It's slow, and it's like everything's part of the environment and the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I like, you know, obviously we're playing through the tutorial at the moment, gang, so there are plenty of sort of tool tips, if you want to use that term at the start, as we're sort of teaching these mechanics, but I really enjoy that minimal UI. Like even the health bar, if you're at full health, you won't see the health bar. So you just end up with this beautiful, clean landscape that's just you in the village, which is something I'm a big fan of.
And if you need more information, like you said earlier, you can see it in your warden's site, which is the mask that the warden is wearing, and they can either they get this site when they get chosen to be a warden, and they can see through the mask, and it gives you like information on what tools you got for that night, or how much health you have, or what are the whispers of the night, what are your selected abilities. You can obviously toggle that on and off if you want, if you don't want any of that UI in the warden side, but it's there, and you can click a button and see in case you need any help. But our current, the state of the game is like as minimal UI as possible. Once the tutorial is done, all those tooltips will be gone.
Why does he hate me so much? Okay. I have to give it... water fiends, go away! This is something I love, by the way, that... This sort of... The way... No! It all ends up tying together where I'm chased, you know, being chased by the monster, trying desperately to escape. But I make a mistake and I choose to go off the path into a field and don't notice the water fiend, which suddenly grabs me and does damage. So I love how even when, and I've found this, and I don't know about you as you've played this game, even when you start to feel confident, like, I know what I'm doing, it's still very easy to come unstuck very quickly.
Yeah, 100%. Even if I'm running through the game and know where exactly to go and what to not step on, etc., I still get these random elements that will scare me and like throw me off the path that I was going.
Yeah. So, were there any particular games that sort of inspired Harvest Hunt that the team sort of drew inspiration of, or games that were like, we'd like to make something in that genre or with a similar feel?
I think it wasn't something particular, no. It was a lot of elements from a lot of games. It wasn't something specific. As you can see, it's very... the core loop and how the game works is quite unique. We tried to combine the horror genre with the roguelite genre, which I guess we still haven't fully talked about. We can do it on the third night when we see more of the cards on screen. So there wasn't a particular like, oh, we want to make something similar to X game. It was, oh, we like this thing from this genre, and we like these aspects from these games. And as much as I can like talk about, oh yeah, it's like this X game, I don't think it exactly fits in any of current games right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't imagine anything specific. It's same with the art style. Everybody can compare it to different games, right? But we obviously were inspired from a lot of things. And if Euros, I think, is in our chat actually now, so maybe he can pinpoint us to what painterly look he wanted to give to the game, where he was inspired from.
Uriel is indeed in chat. Like, I'm not going to read that out because I'm trying to keep this family friendly, but that is a brilliant term for what happens when one mistake leads to another mistake and another mistake and a little bit more, like that fiend there. Okay, I'm gonna go mostly from outside of games, Uriel says, in terms of the art. No, I meant to do that because I'm gonna use it to lure the devourer here. That's what I meant to do.
Exactly, yeah, sure.
Oh no, come back. Norstein, an animator, was apparently a source of inspiration for the art style. But even I think there, like, and feel free to tell me I'm wrong, Uriel, but I think a bit like what you were saying with the core game, I can see bits of different inspiration from different game types. Different art types, different art styles. You know, there's sort of a slightly shaded aspect that I've seen in other games, but not exactly like this. There's a slight hand-drawn feel that has been in other games, but not this. So it's a real interesting... I haven't seen elements mixed together like this in many, if not any other games before, which I really like. It feels fresh, which is always nice. The fog was a big thing. I do like the fog. Every horror game must have fog. That's the rules.
Mm-hmm.
How have we got? I'm running low on
So one of the tools
vigor.
you used now was the hatchet, which is one of the most powerful tools in the game, but now it's free. When it's, you know, in later nights, it's not going to be free. You can only acquire 2, and it will basically bring you down to half your health by just acquiring that tool. So it's a more risky tool to get at the beginning of your run.
So yeah, I mean, that sums me up, because I'm always like, yeah, I'll just take all the hatchets. It'll be fine. I'll go into the field with 30 health.
One of the things that we might have noticed while wandering around the farmlands now is the smokes, the kind of like toxic green smokes, and those are the ones that this is the current master mutation that the monster has for this season. It trails like a toxic gas, and that's randomized around the how frequent it does that, and it helps. Once you get in there, you get poisoned, and it cuts down your health, as well as it also blocks you from following the monster, or blocks you from going to specific areas because it lingers a little bit around. So that's something to consider when playing this season with this mutation.
I've done 2. I'm getting there. I'm not dead yet. I must admit, like, I really enjoy the monster veins, just because they just give you that little heads up. Okay, somewhere over that way. Don't have anything at the church. I need another blood flask from the tree, I think. So I have a question which you can you might be able to answer yet, or depending on how much about what's further in the game, you might not be able to. But do you have a favorite tool? Like I do, it's the hatchet. It's brutal and simple, and I just yeet it at the devourer, and that's how I pretend to be good at the game. But I know everyone has their different play styles and different favorite tools.
Maybe there is one tool that we saw earlier, in the screen we were able to select the tools, but it's locked until way later on. And it's the jaw trap. It's something that you place on the ground, and the monster has to kind of like walk over it to get hurt. But you can do it. I like combining with a lot of different elements in the game. So when you have a chance, you can walk up to a bell that exists around the game in various different areas, and you can ring it and place a trap there, so the devourer will go towards the bell and just get hit by the trap, basically. Or you can use it in different other ways in combination with the environment, which makes it a kind of like an interesting strategy without getting ever close to the devourer. You just make sure it goes to the trap.
Yeah, and that's why I feel like you can play this game, you know, as a sort of a hunter, a rogue, you know, an assassin, a perfect stealth killer, you know, a barbarian, which is a bit more like how I go. Mm-hmm.
Just now you passed over something that was on the ground that looked like a little hole with glowing kind of blisters around it. So those are like areas that the monster kind of merged from randomly. So if it like if you're walking past that area, it can just suddenly come out of that. Your lights turn off and kind of scares you as well. So for example, one of my tactics is putting the draw trap right at those areas, and if the monster spawns out of them, then it will get hurt.
Macy,
what's good about
that's the smart way to play. I'm just like, oh yeah.
What's the good thing about the trap is that I don't have to ever get ever close to the monster, whereas with the hatchet you need to stick around and you might get hurt, and at later levels when the health is high, like the damage is high, you need to be a bit more careful.
And I think, you know, the tutorial is very forgiving. Like I would have failed by now had I, you know, not had, because we're on half damage at the moment from the devourer.
Yeah, half damage, and also remember Antonia's starting sporting strength is getting double the amount of vigor from rations. So every time you go heal and consume rations, you're getting double the amount of health, basically. So say it's 50, but if once you don't have that ability, it's going to be 25. And once the Devourer starts hitting double the amount, you'll basically be low on health, and you have to be careful.
You can't be as cavalier as me, basically.
Exactly.
So we've now got our 3 fragments. So that's what we need in order to be able to carry out the ritual. And you can now see this mask, this lovely bloodied mask, has appeared in our effigies. So the last step, during which you still can be damaged by the Devourer, so you're not safe at all, is to grab this, perform the banishment ritual, and now we can see where the Devourer is. And if we go and grab the Devourer's mask, we will successfully banish it from our field. And who doesn't like a swirling blood?
And banishing actually never kills the Devourer. It just sends it away for that night with the hopes that you have some respite for your village a little bit, and you get a bit more ambrosia, but then it will come over the next night and you have to do it again. And
Safe
do it in different ways.
for now is what it gets you. But you can see this time, so we got 30 ambrosia through the act of banishing, and I only actually harvested 10 while I was going around, so that kind of gives you an idea. So we got 40 in total. So we do now have, technically speaking, enough to survive this season, but of course this is A, season 1, and B, tutorialized version of it. So you could, and as I was saying on the first stream, you could just go into the field, collect a little bit if you wanted, and escape for the next 3 nights. But you would miss out on all of these unlocks, all of the extra lore, all the additional cards, etc. So even if you've necessarily made it through the season, you don't want to miss out on the extra nights, and it gets significantly harder as the seasons ramp up.
And to add on top of that, the reason you are able to go higher than the number required is because there's ways to lose that ambrosia. Even at the last night, there could be a whisper that tells you, oh no, if you don't do this thing, you will lose so much ambrosia. And then suddenly you thought you were safe, but you're not. So it's best to play in the best way possible.
Bank some
every
ambrosia,
night. Or
yeah.
collect at least. Yeah, or collect a little bit more ambrosia just to be safe.
Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the cornfields. So now we've unlocked a Warden Strength of these blue cards, but also you can tell in the little Warden's mask in the corner. So we've unlocked a Warden Strength now, which is we will make half as much noise when we walk or run. And now we start to build on this card system, which I love, and I think it looks beautiful. So these, I love this. There's such a certain art style, and we've talked about this, I think, but I would love a physical card deck of all these cards with all this stuff printed on it.
Yeah, absolutely, that'd be amazing.
Because they're lovely. So now,
I can
sorry,
go
on,
over
Mel.
quickly if you want over.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to over. So yeah, now during this night, if you banish the monster, you'd be able to choose a village fortification, and the way you choose is that it presents you 3 random cards from your card deck. There will be cards that are locked in your card deck, and those won't ever appear. So once you unlock them, they will appear at this screen, and you'll be able to choose from them. And right now, we kind of have you can have a little starter pack to play with some village abilities, which are these fortifications. So one of them could be like when you acquire the tools, you can choose your starting location on the map, which can be really, really useful depending on the whispers and depending on what tools you want to acquire. So if you want to, like you said, Jay, you want to get the hatchet, which is at the main windmill, you can choose a starting location to be close to that instead of like having it randomly start you at a random entry point, which is what the game does. The other one is that it's something we haven't touched yet, so maybe I can skip that. The middle one, the atonement, and the foraging is that it might sound small, but every successful banishment will gain you 5 more ambrosia because you do have 5 nights, and that can increase significantly with how much you need. Those numbers will always be something that we're still balancing, but it can be a way of you feeling a little bit more safer. Okay, I need to banish a Devourer, but I'm also gonna get some extra ambrosia every time.
Yeah, I love I enjoy the fortification. I think the fortifications are my favorite sets of cards. And we'll come on to why that is in a little bit, but I'm gonna go with the picking a starting point, because for me that's a tactical route. I'm like, okay, if I can start here, and that's my plan around the map. So we grab one of those, and then that takes us onto the wooden strengths screen. Do you want to talk about a little bit how the warden strength and fortifications differ in terms of what happens to them as the seasons progress?
Yeah, exactly. So this is one of the roguelite elements that we have. So the warden strengths are player abilities that basically will reset every time you complete or fail a season. So after season 1, when you start with a new villager, that villager's not gonna have any of these abilities anymore. You kind of have to start from scratch and choosing different ones for them. Whereas the village fortifications are abilities that remain throughout the whole game, as long as you don't fail a season. So when you start your second season, for example, any village fortification that you've equipped will also remain for the second season. But if you fail to complete a season, that's when the villagers' morales go down, and they just take all of that back, basically, and you can have it, and you have to rebuild it again. And and also apart from that, the warden strengths are, like I said earlier, they're related to the player. So as you can see here, you can have the noise when walking or running. You can increase the range of your throwable tools, so you can be further back and be a bit more safe when throwing the tools. And the other one is being able to recover your vigor faster when you interact with rations. So these are all related to the player, whereas as we saw earlier, the fortifications were related to gameplay itself, like adding a new way for you to enter the farmlands.
Yeah, and this is like what I like, and hopefully you can start to see, everyone, how night by night and season by season this sort of card deck system just gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and you can start to really kind of fine-tune exactly how you like it. If I'm like, okay, well, tonight or in general my runs are going to be quite aggressive, then I'm going to take extra range. Like I want to be able to throw. I'm still going to go with an aggressive hatchet run, but I want to be a little bit safer versus say, I'm going to be quieter, which if you were doing a stealth run, you'd want to start to build a deck out that helps you on that side of things.
Yeah, so if we actually go now to the current hand, if you want to show that, since we're talking about the cards, the current hand screen is where you can see what you have currently equipped, and you only have a limited amount that you can equip as well. So warden strengths, you can equip 5 cards, whereas like village fortifications are only 4 cards. Therefore, if you unlock a new village fortification and you don't have any space to equip it, what you can do is kind of sacrifice one of the cards that you have, and that will get removed. It's basically a basic respec of your abilities. You can do that with both the warden strengths and the fortifications, and you can see basically, okay, these are the cards I have equipped now. This is applying to me currently. And if you want to see all the cards, we also have a screen that you can see that also in the demo of what's to come. So if we go to that screen with all the cards, you can see all the tools that exist in the game. You can see all the village fortifications and all the warden strengths, and they tell you approximately when they're going to unlock, which ones are going to unlock first, for example. And you can also get a glimpse of like things to come, like the jaw trap that I talked about, for example, in the tools is currently locked, and it comes way later in the game. You can already see there, and you can see its cost, etc., etc. So this is the space basically where you can see all these different abilities. You can't equip anything from here, that only happens at the end of the night, but you have kind of like an idea what currently exists in our game, and we'll have a lot of things to play with.
And I think this is like, if you want to come in, if you want to get, I'm sure we'll see people doing it, but getting exactly down to the vigor points of like, okay, each night I'm going to take 1 times this, 1 times that. If I play this hand the season before, I should end up with this much vigor extra. For example, you were talking about that card that gives you extra vigor and things like that. So this screen's really good for actually going, okay, I can figure out what everything's gonna cost me here and kind of plan this strategy out. And I also can I make a really weird audio compliment? And that's the sound for flipping through the cards It's one of the most satisfying noises I've heard in a video game anywhere ever. And then the fact that the screen is beautiful also helps greatly. But yeah, this is a very nice sensation. It's hard to describe, but flicking through these actually feels like flicking through these. But yes, it's a really nice screen here for just showing you exactly, here's all the cards, and using that to plan. And if you did want to clear one out, it's just a case of you just click on a card and then you can sacrifice it here. One of the cards that we saw, which was that middle one that Val skipped over, was the atonement card, which means you actually earn ambrosia for sacrificing cards. So if you wanna,
this is what happens here.
You wanna play it on the edge, you can essentially wipe out your entire hand if you like.
Exactly. You don't need to have any abilities when you play the game. Even if the warden starts with a starting ability, you can just come here and wipe it out and have 0 at the very beginning.
And now I'm waiting for somebody inevitably to, when the game releases, to do a 0 card run. They just sacrifice all their cards.
0 card run and just pitchfork run.
Yeah. So now we've got a new set of whispers for our third night.
We do keep half the damage for the monster, just the first few nights, just to get you into the things, because there's other things where the player needs to learn before they have to like actually battle Devour. And the new card that we're introducing here, which isn't super punishing, but it's there, is that if you fail to banish the Devourer this night, you will lose 20 more ambrosia. So if you decide to escape now and just turn back, you will lose 20 plus the 10. You will lose 30 ambrosia out of your maximum, which can be a big number.
Yeah.
In case you were already not close to the required amount.
Yeah, those margins start getting slim. So, again, that's just one example of how the night changes each time, and as these seasons go on, it's constantly evolving. So now it's going to cost me to pick tools, because we're only nice to you for one night, basically. And now the final night of our demo. For example, if I take the hatchet, what's going to happen now is this is going to cost me 20 vigor if I decide I'm going to take both hatchets. And now I'm down to 80. Well, now I'm down to 60. I'm going to let Val decide. For this final night, are we going full aggression and
we can think a little bit. If we get the 2 hatches, we'll be at 60, but the monster does have damage, so it's not that horrible. But if we also go to the tree and pick the bigger elixir, which is what we unlocked initially, that restores your health for 3 minutes without having to go to a Russian point to restore the health. So if we get that and then choose our starting location to be the tree, we can immediately go pick up the health, start regenerating it, then go to the windmill, pick up the hatchet, and go from there. We can also try the pitchfork if you want, but that's a weak tool, so maybe we can. We'll see how it goes. But yeah. So that's one strategy, for example, and this is with just the beginner tools that we'll have. If you're able to see some of the other tools that we have, they are quite unique and different than your usual. That the usual things that you find in games. For example, the proxy puppet is like it will immediately damage the Devourer no matter where you are, and it's like it's kind of like a voodoo doll, but at the same time it will leave you with basically no health, so you better be absolutely sure that you want to do that. It's very dangerous.
I like that one. I'm just hatchet, proxy puppet. Let's go. No, 0 vigor run. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do like a 1 vigor run. I'm going to let my health get down to virtually 0. But it's a great example of how all these different play styles can be achieved through the different tools and the different cards.
And dying is not the end. Like we said, it's a roguelite, so you might fail that night. It's okay. You have other nights to play with. And even if you fail a season unlocking lore, you can still come back and do that at the end of the game. It's not completely the end. You don't miss out on any basically content, is what I'm trying to say, even if you fail some things.
And now we have the question of where do I spawn? Near the tree, so you can't actually spawn directly on a landmark, because why would we wouldn't be that kind. But you can see now I've got these little gray markers in because so if I didn't take that card that was, once you're on the tool selection screen, choose your entry point, these little gray markers wouldn't be there. So that's why we've got this ability now to choose where we're going to go in. I'm going to come in from what I consider to be the north, just because it's the top of the map. Because I always pick the one down here. So I'm going to, variety is the spice of life. So I'm going to come in from the top now. And we'll see what happens. This is the third and final night of the demo, which is in Steam Next Fest right now, which is technically for about another hour, I think, Next Fest. But I'm sure Val will correct me if I'm wrong, but the demo is going to stay after Steam Next Fest. So if you want to download it and give this a try, you're absolutely more than welcome to. And please do as well. Follow us on Twitter at @WeAreVillainous, because we are. But that's where you'll find all our game updates, and we've got our Steam community around the game as well for you to come and say hello and follow the updates of the game. And of course, if you like what you see and you feel like throwing a wish list at us, please do. It does help us out a lot. So if you do like it, please throw us a wish list, and hopefully we should have some updates for you soon.
One of the things that is going to be in this run that you might notice is what we start introducing the fiends to the player here. So maybe I'll let you explore that, Jay, and
I hate them so much. Why do they hate me so much? Actually, that's more the pertinent. I haven't done anything to the fiends, and they hate me. So we got a little unlucky. You're
dangerously low on health, so
yeah. And this is what I like. Like, even though we decided, well, we're going to spawn right by the thing that we need in terms of our health potion over there, just through happenstance, that's where the Devourer has appeared, which means I'm now stuck.
I would hide. I would definitely hide for now. Yep.
Is he going away? I'm trying to see if we can find some vigor somewhere else while we stay quiet. You gonna go and download it now, Mark Drew? Don't know that name. Never heard of them. Old.
One of the things that's also a bit dangerous in the game is like the noise you make. So we have these different noise makers that you can trigger. For example, the water fiend that we saw at the beginning, it causes damage and will alert the devourer to your presence. But also a lot of things are on the ground because it's a desolated village. We've got broken ceramics, we've got bones, we've got twigs, and stepping on those or like the creaky boards makes a lot of noise. So if you step on that, the devourer will be able to hear you if it's close enough, even if it's not that close sometimes. And you have to be careful when stepping over stuff like that.
It is like those wonderful moments, and I'll show it now by walking on the wood, but where you're trying to be super secret, and it's like that bit in the film where they're being super sneaky going through the jungle, and then one of them steps on a twig and the twig snaps, and everyone just looks at them like, oh. So you can hear now, if I ramp up the volume, that I'm now making noise because I'm just walking, not crouched or anything on this wooden plank. If I decide to run,
it makes a lot more noise. Yeah,
I can hear that's severe. And if I haven't quite tactically figured out exactly the range yet, but if the Devourer was fairly close to us, he's coming to see what's going on. Okay, where's my hatchets? At the windmill.
And you don't only alert the Devourer by making noise, you also alert what we call fiends around the game. Those are like your like the things that give away your position. They can either see you or hear you. So if the sound fiends hear you stepping on something loud, they'll be like, hey, Devourer, go over here. Somebody's making noise. And the Devourer will just come over to the location.
Oh, he did the teleporty thing. Okay, so a couple of things happened perfectly on cues. As you were talking about fiends, I uncovered one and got sensed. But then the Devourer suddenly appeared out of those holes in the ground that you mentioned earlier. So,
so those are its burrowing holes over there. It can move below the ground and it will just burrow out of them, just randomly.
Which is, again, something I like, where we've gone from being relatively safe, because I was like, oh, the Devourer's over there. I can now kind of get from the tree to the windmill and I'm okay, to all of a sudden a fiend has spotted me and the devourer is 6 foot from me and all of a sudden I'm in trouble. So like the ability of this game to keep you on your toes is... I think I burn calories playing this game. That's what I'm going to say. I feel like I'm so tense and just every muscle is just... Every sinew and fiber is pounced and ready and waiting. Right, let's see.
And those things are slowly introduced into the game. You know, like the monster being able to burrow underground and pop up out of these holes is not something you see in your first couple nights. Same with the fiends. Those are its little minions, basically, if you want to put it that way, that will just tell where your location is. So you have to be extra careful. And there will be, for example, like various challenges that will maybe populate the farmlands with a lot more of them, or you have to use different tools maybe and or different ability to counter that.
Oh, come back here. I risked it. Where is he? Oh, completely missed. Well done, Jay. Good work. The other thing that's worth noting, and you know, I think this again pays into people's potential tactics, is you don't have to, whilst, you know, part of the gameplay loop is attack the devourer, damage the devourer, put a piece of its flesh in the effigy. You can, if you want, what I like to call essentially queue them all up. So if you wanted to, you could damage the devourer 3 times and then go around and try and collect the fragments up from the map and get them to the effigy, so you don't have to necessarily do 1 effigy, 2 effigy, 3 effigy, which is a tactic I've used sometimes, and depending on exactly how you do it, it may or may not work. Oh, hello! I thought he was somewhere else. Let's go right.
That's how it gets you.
I was trying to find the axe, which I completely missed through. But like now, I know I'm running towards somewhere there's a sound fiend, so I'm not going to be safe anyway. Okay, let's go on the wooden logs into the cornfield. See, now there, I got safe, and then a wonderful fiend spotted us as we escaped again. So you do get this constant cat and mouse game. It's wonderful. Okay. Let's try and go through a small space.
That's because when you were running away, you weren't careful and you stepped on something that was loud and it hurt you. If you were to duck into the cornfield, for example, and not step on the bridges and make a loud noise, I would have lost you. Not blaming you, I'm just saying there's different ways to counter this.
It's true. One of them's the good way, everybody, and then one of them's how Jay plays. I've lost.
For example, if the devourer is chasing you and you go and step over things that are loud, it will keep hearing you, so you can't out chase it. You have to find a different way to hide.
See that noise there? That's a fiend. I know that. I'm just gonna sit for a second. Please leave me alone. I'm just a humble farmer. Okay. This is the face I make half the time I'm playing this game, by the way, viewers. The other problem I have is I've now thrown one of my axes, but thankfully with Warden's Sight, at least there's a little bit of a chance for me to figure out where I threw it. Okay. So, again, trying to avoid, I mean, you can reveal a little bit about, is there any particular cards that you're like, I hope this one doesn't come up during my playthrough because it always messes with you? Like, I have one, which I won't say, but are there any that you particularly just hate or love that you think complement how you play?
I think there's a bunch of them that I really don't enjoy, but in a good way. It's like, oh, it's changing how I play. I don't know if I have favorites exactly. So it's a difficult question. I do like a few of them, but I also don't want to spoil them because that's not something that we have in the game that's easily revealed. It's something that you slowly, as you progress, those things appear. So maybe I don't want to reveal too much. But we did bring up the one that you hate earlier, which is something that changes in the entire environment and suddenly you can't traverse easily. I think that one's a pretty strong one.
Yeah.
We can just go with that one.
We're going to make you earn it. You're going to have to actually play the game and unlock them. Because the way they change the game is really, really good. Very, very enjoyable. Okay, wait, I've got one piece, haven't I? Okay. Do I try my same tactic again? It worked so well for me last time. I think there is a bell around here somewhere.
We can also escape through the entry points if we want. We can do anything we want. It doesn't matter. But we have to remember that this night you will lose more ambrosia if you escape. If you decided, okay, I'm not gonna play through this night, these calamities too much for me to handle or whatever. You can just escape. But in this case, I think we had about 70 ambrosia. So if we left and escaped, we would probably fail.
Yeah, we'd be in
the demo. But that's totally fine. You can also do that.
Oh no, I threw it straight into the fence. Good work, Jay. Yeah, because I think that's a great example. Like, I just ran straight into it. Yeah, I think at 69 we'd be losing 20 for our, the calamity that we've failed this banishment, and then another 10, isn't it, for general banishment. And I haven't really harvested any tonight, so even in this tutorial third night, you're starting to already see how it's not always a simple case of harvesting. Did that land? No, I missed. Okay, backup time. So I don't know if you want to talk about the idea of the pitchfork in terms of what it takes to...
So with the pitchfork, I think I mentioned it earlier as well. It's like kind of like the weakest tool that we have. It takes a few times to, you have to damage the devourer a few times with it before it drops one of its fragments, and you have to get really close to the devourer. So if you already say at 50 health, and you know that one more hit from the devourer will kill you, you should probably not use the pitchfork, for example. But it's the last resort kind of tool. Which is okay. It's okay to use. It's kind of fun as well.
I do like again, it's just one of those examples of how up close now I have to get to the thing I've been trying to avoid all night. But we did it.
And it's totally okay because you're at good health. You don't lose that much right now from the devour, so you can completely do that for a few nights now at the demo. And it won't impact as much. And there'll be times where you can play this aggressively and feel like an unempowered villager, and then other times where you won't be able to do that and you feel vulnerable. So it will have a bit of both in this game.
And I think, already we can see in this, this third night is already more chaotic and faster paced and more aggressive than, the second night we played, which was very sort of slow and steady. And I would argue this one is not as effective either. But if you're an adrenaline junkie and you just want to go, I'm just going to take the devourer on and see what happens. You can try. It's all that, that wonderful risk and reward, which I enjoy. And I've got to find my other hatchet now.
Yeah. Before, for example, you decided to ring the bell at the effigy and that brought the devourer there. We'll have scattered randomized bells like that. And that's another thing that I talked about earlier, the jaw trap, which I like to place at these bells and then ring the bell, and the devourer would just go explore there and maybe get hit while I'm perfectly safe, hiding in the corn, for example.
Just eating. It's just you're just the warden that's just like eating a bowl of ambrosia, just relaxing, maybe with a book, just waiting. Essentially just catching rats in a trap. Whereas my playstyle is running around like an idiot. So those green spires that you may have seen come up, that's a little indicator to the player that they don't stay on screen for long, but they sort of show you where the ambrosia has been contaminated. which will give you a vague bearing of the location of the Devourer, but you know, by the time you get over there, no guarantee that it's still around. So in fact, we can see the one that is eaten there. And it teleported. Okay. I don't know why I picked the hatchets. I'm clearly not very good with them. There we go.
You have the ability as well that you can throw them from further away, so that helps a little bit staying further behind.
Okay, we did it though. We got up close and personal a little bit. Okay. So now this is where those tall lanterns come in. You can just see them there through the... Hello! Through the corn. That they're that direction now with one left. We're gonna go the long way around is what we're gonna do. See if we can get this. So I have just alerted another fiend there. You can see that its lights on that have all gone red. Which means the Devourer has... It's almost a tactic, actually, if you wanted to trick those fiends into going off so that you can draw the Devourer over there. As long as you're not still there.
Exactly, that is one of the strategies that you could play with. But there is something in the game that could potentially stop you from doing it as a tactic. Like I said, we have a lot of ways to counter things. And also things that counter your playstyle. So if you decide to be like, oh, I'm going to use these fiends to bring the Devourer to those locations... maybe something next time will allow you to do that. I'm not gonna spoil it, just saying.
All I will say is, as you might have already guessed, gang, is that as this progresses, these systems build and build and build and build on each other, and it gets very juicy indeed. But we did survive our third and final night of the demo, so we gained our 10 ambrosia, but because we banished as well, so we got 30 for the banishment. I harvested a measly 14, and I believe it was a little bonus for the night that we got another 10 towards the banishment. So then, of course, we get another reward for another night complete. We get the stink pot, which is... I like this one because it's like a cheap hatchet in that it's a throw, you damage, but the downside with this one, unlike the hatchet, is the monster will now chase you for 15 seconds, but it's a cheap card. That only 5
it's a very, very
vigor.
cheap one.
So,
yes.
Another example of just how these continue to build on each other. So, again,
and
now...
you can build... you can throw 2 stink pots, for example, at the monster. It will chase you for 30 seconds. Then that will build up. Anything that has a status effect, and we do have some different status effects in the game. For example, this one will build up. So if you have that vigor elixir that we unlocked at the beginning, if you take it, and if you take another one, those 3 minutes will go to 6. So maybe that's something that you want to do if you know your runs last about from like 10 minutes or 8 minutes, depending on how you play. And maybe you'll be like, okay, I'm gonna cover it a little bit by using a vigor elixir. It's not as powerful though. It's like using a ration. Rations will restore your health much more. Vigor elixirs are like very slowly giving you the health through those 3 minutes.
Yeah, and we've sort of looked, I think, you know, it depends very much on how you play in terms of what a 5-season run might take you to accomplish in terms of runtime. But I think if you're like me and you go super fast and you just hell for leather and fail all the seasons, you might be able to get through in, say, 6 hours, I think we've sort of looked at. But I think if you're sort of slow and methodical and you're unlocking all the lore as you go, and, you know, you're not a complete idiot and lunatic, in my play style, you know, I think we're looking at around sort of 10 hours for a start to finish run. But of course, then go all the way back around again.
You play, basically, right?
Yeah. But you're going to want to go back and find those extra bits of lore that you missed, or try it with different cards, so you can just go round and around and around. Because as we said in the trailer, death is just the beginning. Yeah. And you can not pick a card as well, by the way. If you want to do a 0 card run, you don't have to. I quite like this one though, so that when you damage the Devourer, it heals you. I quite like that one. That's a good one. Again, you know, like for my play style, that's a handy one because I'm going after the Devourer in a way that's probably going to get me hurt a lot. So having something that heals me is very, very useful. But that's it. That's the end of our 3 nights of the demo of Horror Stories Harvest Hunt, which you can download right now off of our Steam store page. It will stay there after Next Fest as well, so you know, you're not under pressure to grab it right now, but you may as well. You may as well go and add the game to your wish list, grab the demo, and keep an eye on us. Do feel free to follow us, of course, on Twitter at We Are Villainous. We've got the community hub on the store page as well, and we've also got the Villainous Games publisher page if you want to follow us there. You get all the news and updates, and you can see our other games, such as Please Comply, which is already out on Steam, which is, in theory, is no, I'm not going to say part 1 because it's not, but it's part of the Horror Stories anthology that we here at Villainous Game Studios are making. So if you want to get in on the anthology already, you can start with Please Comply. But Harvest Hunt is out now on demo, or out now on Steam, and we're going to do that thing where like we will have more news for you soon. Because it's soon TM, isn't it? That's what we have. Soon asterisk, you know.
And if you enjoyed our playthrough now as well, if you want to play the demo, we have also a feedback form that you can just leave us some feedback, some specific questions that we have ourselves, or you can just jump into the Steam discussions like Jay said and drop whatever feedback you have there.
And if you do, I mean, it's been solid every time I've found it. If you do find any bugs, for example, and you want to let us know, there's a little bug reporting tool as well if you do find any. But I mean, touch wood, I haven't found a single one in all of my demo playthrough. It's a very, very, very solid experience. But that's it. Unless anyone's got any more questions for Val, or Val, if you've got anything else you want to say about the game itself, other than enjoy it and wishlist it because it's great.
Yeah, exactly what you said. Enjoy it, wishlist it, play our demo, leave us feedback, and buy it when it comes out. I think that's important as well.
That's the important one, yes.
We're a small team. We try to make interesting kind of like horror games, and we're really, really proud of the way we work and you know, the games we make. And I know there's some aspects of these games that people will enjoy a lot. So hopefully, yeah, you can support our studio by doing that.
And you know, I think it's fair to say, of course, you know, it's a small team. It's very, very hard because we don't know how a game might land. But as a studio, we've certainly got things that we hope we are able to do with the game going forward and with the studio going forward. So any support around, you know, adding it to the wish lists, checking it out when it comes out, sharing it amongst your friends are all massively appreciated. You know, we're a small team, so any help is always really, really appreciated by us. But for now, go and grab that demo, wishlist it, and see if you can do any better / worse than me, pretty much.
Oh yeah, and if you do like to live stream or have these videos on YouTube, would love to check out your playthroughs here. Yeah,
do let me know if you're gonna stream it anywhere, and I'll come by and see. You can teach me how to play the game properly. But that's it. That's it from me. We're gonna sign off now. I'm gonna play the trailer for you if you've not seen it, and then the stream will end. If you want to stick around after this, there will be another playthrough of the demo that will be available to watch on our store page once this is done. But this Q&A will also be up on YouTube as well in due course, so you can catch it there as well. That's me accidentally pressing my Windows key. So you could be able to check out on our YouTube channel as well. We are Villainous Game Studio on YouTube as well, or with the new fancy YouTube handles, we're at We Are Villainous everywhere. But check out the YouTube channel as well. The Q&A will be here if you've missed any of it. But that's it. Have a great week, everybody. Hope you enjoyed Next Fest as well. We will see and speak to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.